When you finish 12 novels and you haven't made a single dime, you really ought to, have a long, hard look at what you're doing. And I did. I look back and say, what grabbed me? What was it? And I think it's partially the imagination, the sense of wonder. We, as people, like to go do this. We want to see new things. There's adventurous, exploratory sense inside of us. And fantasy books are about that, taking us to places that we haven't been, that we can't go, but our imaginations can. These books that I'd started writing, after the first 6, the first 5 I thought, were just practice. But books 6 through about 9, I really put a lot into those. I felt I was getting really good as a writer. I felt I knew what I was doing, and I felt I was writing really good books. I was getting stacks and stacks of rejections. And people were telling me, why don't you be more like this writer over here? Why don't you be more like this writer over here? Your novels are too big. They're too long. We can't buy things that are this long. Write them shorter. And I had to make the decision that at the end of my life, if I had 100 unpublished novels in the closet, would I be okay with that? Would I be okay with never selling anything? I decided I was going to write, the biggest, baddest, most awesome book that I could. I was going to ignore everything that people were telling me. At that time, really popular in fantasy was kind of very gritty and dark fantasy. And I said, no, that's not what I want to write. I'm going to write heroic fantasy, stories like I want to read. By coincidence, it was a few months after I finished that book, I hadn't sent it anywhere, that someone called me wanting to buy Elantris, the 6th book that I'd written, that I'd really had felt would be the book that broke me out all those years ago. It was kind of a fulfillment for me, that I was doing the right thing, but it was also this great moment where I realized, hey, people do want to read those things that I was doing. I'm glad I had the crisis and came out of it before I sold the book. I'm glad that I was able to make the decision that this is what I wanted to do and commit myself to writing, even if I never sold anything. And then it was perfectly all right and awesome for me to get a really nice book deal with a big New York publisher and become a bestseller. I'm perfectly okay with that now that it's happened. Stories are about people. The stories aren't about the fantasy. When I read Tolkien, the story of Sam and Frodo and what they went through and their determination and Sam's loyalty, these are inspiring. This is what changes people's lives. That's my goal in writing this, people, real people, and the struggles they go through. And hopefully by reading them and having a fun time because it's an adventure, but at the same time, what should stay with you is the choices they make. And hopefully that'll help people who have read them to live better lives.